because I think Lucy and I are both fairly new to this. Yeah, so we're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna have a chat. Obviously, I am not Dr. Ross, so I can't do the absolute God tier lectures that he does. But we're gonna do our best. So I have a little bit of an auditory processing issue. So if you're at the back, I might like run back there. But just like if you can project as much as possible, because my brain will just turn it to nonsense. So yeah, so let's just get, I don't think there's anything else. We usually do housekeeping. There's not much housekeeping to do. I think that's fine. Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna run you through the first thing on our agenda today. I have a few slides. Hey, Witch. Yes.
Just one thing maybe worth mentioning, that we didn't finish the text last time.
Oh, we did not?
No, we're just going to leave it for now, and Dr. is going to pick it up next time.
Okay, if anyone didn't hear Lucy, we're going to leave the
kidding.
text we didn't finish last time. Dr. Ross is going to pick it up next time. Yeah. I feel like I'm giving a presentation. I don't like doing that. So I'm going to get through these as fast as possible. Okay, Hey Witch, 13th century Flemish poet and mystic. Not much known about her life except what we know from her writing. Some of it is going to be based off of assumption, but we know that she was well versed in the Latin Bible, theology, and French romantic literature, secular French romantic literature. She was also a member of the Beguine, or that's what's assumed based off of her writing. And they were a group of women who led lives of religious devotion, but they did not take the veil. So unlike nuns, they didn't have vows of chastity. They didn't live in a cloister, and instead they lived more in a community together. And she's considered an important example of love mysticism. And I can slow down if I'm going too fast. And I can also put these slides up on Brightspace if that's helpful for you guys. Yeah, okay, I will do that. Yeah, so she's considered an important example of love mysticism, which is the idea that God allows himself to be experienced as love by a person who wants to be united with him. It's deeply emotional, it's ecstatic and visionary. So the ecstasy, obviously reminiscent of sexual desire or orgasm. And the Beguine association with this led to accusations of heresy, that they were not as religiously devout as they should have been. And obviously, since they didn't take vows of chastity, that was a factor as well. So that's why they're thought of as an early example of an effort for women's emancipation, especially because they were all living in a community together. And they were encouraged to pursue their own individual relationship with God. And that's what's important about love mysticism, is this idea that God is within all of us, and we can pursue our individual relationship with him and actually become one with him. It's the oneness of love itself. So the visions, which is what we're talking about today, she wrote letters, poetry, and visions. And the visions are mystical visions that she says she claims to have had of God and with God. And the visions include what is happening during them, but also what leads up to them and the aftermath of them as one comes down, returns to consciousness from a visionary experience. And in the visions, she claims to have lived with God during his sufferings. During the sufferings of the crucifixion of Christ. All right. Now that's out of the way. That's my least favorite part. We're just gonna do what we always do and go line by line through this. And I have lots to say about it, but I hope you guys do as well. I also don't know how to work this at all, so give me a minute. The doc cam?
Yeah, just.
There we go, that's perfect. Do you have a pen, Lucy? Can I borrow that? Is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. I forgot mine.
That's fine.
I just want to write on it. Okay. So there. All right. I'm just going to read the first paragraph. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll read the first paragraph. I desired to have full fruition of my beloved, and to understand and taste him to the full. I wished that he might content me interiorly with his Godhead, in one spirit, and that for me he should be all that he is, without withholding anything from me. For above all the gifts that I ever longed for, I chose this gift, that I should give satisfaction in all sufferings, for that is the most perfect satisfaction, to grow up in order to be God with God. So, anything you notice right away? Yeah?
Unlike a lot of the other stuff we've looked at, there's kind of like no comedy at all in it.
Yeah.
It's more kind of, say, wistful.
Yeah, no, I noticed that as well. It's extremely devout, and it does read like a religious text. Yeah?
Interior content with his Godhead.
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
pretty, speaks for itself almost.
Yeah, so interiorly, Godhead. Now, Godhead, if you're a Catholic or Christian, you know what that is. Does anyone know the literal definition of Godhead? Okay, so the Godhead is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And it's sort of the mystical or ethereal nature of God. But then obviously, we're all thinking it and we all know it. The head of the penis, and then it's interiorly. So interiorly, she is becoming one with God, but also it's literally interiorly with his Godhead. And so this word here I wanted to point out, fruition. Does anybody have any thoughts about that word? Yeah.
Well, it's kind of interesting since it's like just having a vision and like it's come to fruition, it sort of gives it like credibility that it's gonna come to pass.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and fruition does mean something that comes to pass, or something that is completed in a sense. Yeah. Yeah.
To me it brings up, like, if you take this first bit, it says fruit, so it sort of brings up all the imagery of fruits and blossoming that we've looked at before.
That's exactly right. I was really hoping someone would pick up on that. Yeah, so etymologically, fruition actually means fruitful or bearing fruit. So in that sense, it conjures images of fertility. And so right in the first sentence as well, we have two of these, fulls, and then we have that word fruition. So it's really this idea of overflowing and being completely full and being completed, and I guess satiated in that sense. Look at my notes. Okay, yeah, so And that for me, he should be all that he is without withholding anything from me. So without withholding anything from me, it gives you the idea of, again, being completely full of God, but then of course, seed, and that idea of fullness or pregnancy, being impregnated. With God, for above all the gifts that I ever longed for, I chose this gift, that I should give satisfaction in all great sufferings, longing as if for a lover. And she wants to give her body and also her essence, just who she is, to satisfy God in his sufferings. And for that is the most perfect satisfaction, to grow up in order to be God with God. So not only is it like sex, but it's better than an orgasm. It's like the best orgasm that she's ever had is the perfect satisfaction. And what do you make of in order to be God with God? Because I think that's really important. Nobody? Do I see a hand? No, I don't. Yes, there.
The idea of becoming one with your lover is, we talked about that before, of like becoming one and like not being able to differentiate between yourself and the other person, just like, which is really interesting that she's God's lover.
Yeah.
And that's really fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also a melding of identity. Yeah?
I feel like it could also be like the experience is going to be so good that herself is going to feel like a deity after that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Because she's filled with this godly essence and this godly grace. There's no other feeling like that. So this divinity is in her. She is God, but she's also with God. So yeah, it's completely a melding of identity. And that's the love mysticism we were talking about. That's really essential to this. And also essential is the idea that we are all godlike. She wants to transform in a sense, and I think this vision as a whole is sort of a transformation. Anything else on that first paragraph? No? Okay. So, let me move this out. No, I can barely see it. There we go. Oh God. That's not good. Okay, whatever. You're just gonna have to look at that. I need water. Give me a second. Okay. Okay. Christ first sends an eagle to her as a messenger of his coming, and then appears in several forms himself. Eagles show up a lot in her writing. I don't know why. If anybody knows anything about bird symbolism or eagle symbolism, let me know. But yeah, the research that I did does not suggest that there'd be any current symbolic meaning that would have also been relevant at her time. So, yeah. Yeah, I tried. I'm not sure. Let me see. Maybe I should fold it. Oh God. Okay. There we go. Okay. With that, he came in the form and clothing of a man, as he was on the day when he gave us his body for the first time, looking like a human being and a man, wonderful and beautiful, and with glorious face, he came to me as humbly as anyone who wholly belongs to another. So what do you notice there? Yeah.
It's very humanizing.
they visited women, they would kind of visit in the animal form sometimes, in human forms other times.
That's really
There's
interesting,
a similarity there.
especially because she was a mystic. So her idea of God might have differed from the Abrahamic God for sure. What do you make of the word man in the form and clothing of a man, looking like a human being and a man? There's a suggestion of God as possibly fluid in terms of gender, or genderless.